Well, if Milton Friedman is right, a depression is coming. A depression, not a recession, a massive depression. So we're going to start this. This is from Barron's. Money supply shrinks for the first time. Huh? The M2 money supply was a negative 1.3% versus a year ago, the lowest ever, and marking the first ever decline in M2 based on all available data. All right, the Fed started tracking the metric in 1959. Interesting. So I'm not sure I can read this whole argument, a whole article. I don't think I can. Face a momentous decision in the coming weeks. Markets expect the central bank to increase rates by 1/4 percentage point, marking a significant slowdown as history-making rate hikes. The dial back, if implemented, be for good reason. The rate hikes look like they are starting to work. All these freaking idiots. So I want to share with you, shall we? Free to Choose from Milton Friedman. Now, you can buy his History of Monetary Policy. I can't remember what it is. A book from Friedman. And I got a signed version of this book someplace upstairs, someplace as well, from Milton and Rose. And Schwartz. Anna Schwartz had written, I forgot what the book was. Milton and Anna Schwartz had written. Anyway, so we're going to take a gander. Shall we gander? Gander with me, shall we? All right. Let's see what we got. Onset of depression. The popular view is that the depression started on Black Thursday, October 24th, 1929. After several intermediate ups and downs, the market ended up in 1933 at about 1/6 of its dizzying level in 1929. The market crash was important, but it was not the beginning of the depression. Business activity had reached a peak in August of 1929, 2 months before the Black Thursday. All right. The crash reflected the growing economic difficulties plus the puncturing of an unsustainable speculative bubble. Of course, once the crash occurred, it spread uncertainty among businesses and others who had been bemused by the dazzling hopes of a new era. All right. These depressing effects of the market crash were strongly reinforced by the subsequent behavior of the Fed. At the time of the crash, the Federal Reserve Board, almost by conditioned reflex instilled during the strong era, immediately acted on its own to cushion the shock by purchasing government securities, thereby adding to the bank reserve. So they're purchasing government securities, which means they're sending money into the ether, if you will. They're buying the securities, they're taking the securities, the bonds, they're essentially creating a demand, and they're creating a higher supply of cash that's going into the bank vaults. So anytime the government is purchasing securities, that means they're flooding the market with cash. If they're selling securities, that means they're taking the cash out. All right? Which would be inflationary or deflationary. I'm going to show you why this is all freaking idiotic, man. How dare you? You're not a Nobel Prize winner. Yeah, because I'm smart. I'm smart up here. All right, so let's see. But by them purchasing government securities, that enabled commercial banks to cushion the shock by providing additional loans to stock market firms and purchasing securities from them that were adversely affected by the crash. But the strong Federal Reserve Board was dead, and the board wanted to establish its leadership. So instead of purchasing government securities, expanding the monetary base, what they do? Instead of actively expanding the monetary supply by more than the usual amount to offset the contraction, the Fed allowed the quantity of money to decline slowly through 1930. Contraction of the monetary base. Compared to the decline of roughly 1/3 in the quantity of money from the 1930s to the 1933s, the contraction in October 1930 seemed mild. But it was a larger decline than occurred during any or preceding times of any other recession. All right, so remember, from 1930 to 1933, the decline in the quantity of money was 1/3. They reduced the quantity of, they contracted the monetary supply by 1/3, 33%. All right, let's keep going. The combined effect of the aftermath of the stock market crash and the slow decline in the quantity of money during 1930 was a rather severe recession. But even if the recession had come to an end in late 1930 or 1931, it might have well done if the monetary collapse had not occurred. The monetary collapse is what took the recession into a Great Depression, says MIlton Friedman. I'm going to show you why that's wrong. Fast forward till page 270. The cure for inflation. Just as an excessive increase in the quantity of money is the one and only important cause of inflation, so a reduction in the rate of monetary growth is the only cure for inflation. All right? So again, reduce the monetary growth of money and you will reduce inflation. Increase the quantity of money, you're going to increase inflation. That's straight from MIlton Friedman, Nobel Prize winner, who I like, monetarist. I think he's wrong. I'll share why. Governments must increase the quantity of money less rapidly. So according to Friedman, we don't want to decrease the monetary supply. We don't want a contraction of the monetary supply. We just want to grow it less frequently. Now, it's idiotic for barons to say this is the first time money supply shrinks for the first time. That's so freaking stupid. But I mean, they're using it since the Fed started looking at it in 1959 or something like that. All right, but let me show you what's happening here. All right, so if monetary base is contraction, and we just proved, according to MIlton Friedman, the contraction is what made the recession of 1930 go into a Great Depression with a 33% decline in monetary supply. All right, so now check out what idiotic Barron says. The rates look like they're starting to work. The rate hikes look like they're starting to work. The annual pace of inflation in December cooled for 6 straight months. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look at tradingeconomics.com. And we're going to see U.S. natural gas futures move back below the 3.3 million British thermal, 3.3, I forgot what MM stands for. British thermal units is BTU. Million or something, I can't remember. But it's 3.3. Hovering close to levels not seen since June of 2021. On expectations of lower demand after forecasts pointed to a milder weather in the next 2 weeks. I just read someplace the other day we're going to have a polar vortex at the end of this month. I guess not. Meanwhile, Freeport LNG, the second largest liquefied natural gas exporter, said earlier this week it had finished repairs to its plant and asked U.S. regulators for permission to take early steps to restart the fire-idled facility. U.S. natural gas prices are down more than 30% since the beginning of 2023 and are now almost 70% off their peak in August at 10. So here's August 18th. Here's July. Could that possibly have something to do with the less inflation that's happening? Of course, man. This is what drives inflation, is energy prices. Just look at the 70s, for heaven's sake. Look at the 70s, man. It's energy prices that drive inflation. So if we're going to contract the monetary supply, could that just cause a depression? Maybe, but the way to beat inflation isn't to freaking cause a depression, is to get us going on lower cost energy, which is that's natural gas. So we can look at anything. Look at lumber. I mean, I know lumber isn't energy, but you can see the price of lumber. Look at that. We can look at freaking iron ore. I mean, steel. Actually, I don't know what steel's doing. Let's take a look. Steel. Everything is dropping. Silver, copper. Let's see. Copper. Dropping. Oil. Heating oil right there. Steel and copper don't necessarily create energy, but I'm showing you here. Heating oil from right there. 4.42 to 3.42. That's a 30% decline, 25% decline in heating oil. I mean, folks, we already did natural gas, crude oil. Look, I mean, dude, from June of 2022 was at 120 a barrel, 120 a barrel or something like that, to 80. Come on, man. Come on, man. Brent. All right, so now let's look at electricity. This is from the EIA, Energy and Information Administration. All right, so residential New England, 21 cents, 22 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. October 2022, 25 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. October 2021 for commercial, 16.5, 18. 13 to 15, 8.5 to 11. All sectors, 18.13 to 20.58. That's the cost of electricity. We go down to where I'm from, the good state of Georgia, right there. 1286 to 1431. All sectors, 1079 to 11. That's from 2021 to 2022. That's the average price of electricity ultimate consumers by end sector user. Here's commercial, 13 to 15. 11 to 12 in 1 year's time. That's a significant increase in energy prices. Finally, I didn't look that hard. Electricity prices per kilowatt hour as of anything after October 2022. Nope. But anyway, the point being is electricity generated from natural gas, oil, nuclear. And as those things go down in cost, your price per kilowatt hour will go down in cost, thus deflationary. So if they continue to contract the monetary supply, that's going to be deflationary, which is what a Great Depression is, deflationary, because we learned the wrong lessons from Milton Friedman, Helicopter Ben Bernanke, and whatnot. I'm telling you, man, you guard your bonds, because the bonds are where you're going to want to be if we go to a deflationary economy, a depression-like economy. Now, I'm not expecting that to happen. I can't imagine the monetary supply will contract for 3 straight years like in 1930. To 1933. But you heard it here, right here, from the horse's mouth. Guard your bonds. Deflation is good for bonds. It may or may not be good for stocks. We don't know. We don't know. Because the history of that is only 1930s, which was bad for stocks, I grant you. But we had 1800s, but that's just, you can't really use that. I don't think it's a proxy. What are your thoughts? We'll see you.